a lot of fights because of that shit, you know? But I didn't realize it until I got it to AA and started living by spiritual principles, how that wasn't an uncommon thing. It wasn't an uncommon thing. I was no different than most people that were in there. They were all scared shitless, you know? I don't care how tough they were, you know? So I found that I'm not any different, you know what I mean? But I thought I was different. I thought I was just weak. I had no willpower. I couldn't quit this thing, that I should, I was getting in so much trouble. I should be able to just put it down and walk away from it, But I couldn't do it, And then it explains it in the big book on page 24 in here. It says it says the problem really in short terms. It spends the whole first part of that chapter, there is a solution talking about the problem, and how we don't have any willpower or anything like that. On page 24, it comes down to one paragraph, the problem. And the first step is about the problem. It's about identifying the problem we have. We have to admit that we're powerless over alcohol and that our lives have become unmanageable. Our thinking is unmanageable. But on page 24 in italics, it says, the fact is that most alcoholics, for reasons yet obscure, have lost the power of choice in drink. Our so-called willpower becomes practically non-existent. We are unable at certain times to bring into our consciousness with sufficient force the memory and suffering and humiliation of even a week or a month ago. We are without defense against the first drink. And so I get to AA and they say, you can't get drunk if you don't take the first drink. And that's a truth. That is as true as you can get. You can't get drunk unless you take the first drink. And you can't get high if you don't take the first drink, pill, fix, or smoke. You know what I mean? But still, it's the same thing. If I'm defenseless against it, then I can't not do it, I can't not do it. I can't not pick up that first drink at some time, and these chapters talk about that curious mental twist where at some point we won't have any defense against that first drink, So when I came into AA this time, I knew the first step. I didn't have any problem with it, I saw it, and I didn't have to dwell on it too long. But I listened anyway when people were talking about that, it's our thinking, the obsession, and the allergy, this, if I do drink, then I can't stop, because I got this craving, and so, so the first step is like the problem, and it's like, okay, I don't want to live in the first step. I don't want to live in the problem, I lived in the problem those first 2 years before I really got into Alcoholics Anonymous. When I got into the program, then I started hearing things like, okay, you're a member if you say you are and you claim your seat, You don't have to do anything special for it, All you have to do is have a desire not to drink, Some people say the first writing in the big book said an honest desire. But a desire is all we have, And I don't even think you have to have that, to tell you the truth, You can lie about it, We won't know the difference, If you say you're a member, and that's all there is to it. There isn't no AA police, So, so I took my membership seriously at first, And then, and I heard this chalk talk when I was in treatment. They gave us these, if you guys have ever heard of Father Martin, he's dead now, but he was this alcoholic priest that would put out these, he'd have these speaker tapes, and he'd talk about the disease of alcoholism. And he said, one of the things that he said that struck me so heavily was this. He said, sobriety is a gift, we couldn't get it ourselves. I couldn't get it myself. I could not stay sober by myself, you know. So the second step is I came to believe that a power greater than myself could restore me to sanity, you know. And so that's kind of the gift there, you know, is getting restored to sanity, is God helping me stay sober, my higher power helping me stay sober, you know. And he said, this gift is laid out on the table. Unless you take it, it's not your gift. God can give you all the gifts he wants to, you know, or your higher power, or whatever you choose to believe, you know, can give you all the gifts you want. But if you don't take it and own it, it's not going to be yours, okay? And so that's what working the steps is, taking that gift to yourself, you know. And for me, that first step is so important, you know. It's like, it's every day. You know, I come, because not only am I powerless over alcohol, but I'm powerless over people, places, and things, you know. Through working the steps, I've found that out for me, you know. This last week was a pretty good example of that. You know, I got all tweaked about some of the political commercials I hear on radio, you know what I mean, and TV. I just started getting all tweaked about it, you know what I mean? And I'm all like walking around all pissed off, you know what I mean? And I'm going, dude, you know, I had to get to the first step on it, you know? I always have to come back to the first step on anything. An argument with my wife, my kids, anybody, you know, I have to get back to the first step. I'm powerless. And my life is unmanageable. And my life is unmanageable by me to this day. I've been sober a long time. But until I invite my higher power in and ask for his help, I get so damn unmanageable. And I make so many bad choices in life. You know, I mean, I've made bad choices all through my sobriety. Now, I've learned from those choices, and I've grown from those choices, but I've still made them, you know. And I don't want to make the choice of drinking, you know. So I don't think that I have a choice in drinking today. If I tell myself I have a choice whether I can drink or not, I got a problem, you know, because the choice is insanity. Do you have a choice to say you're insane or not? I mean, are you just like, you know, is that a choice? You know, because that's what drinking to me is, insanity. It's like saying, hey, you know, I'm going to take this poison that's going to kill me, that's going to make me so I don't know when I'm going to stop or what's going to happen as soon as I take that first drink. I might have fun for 10 minutes. I might put it down. You know, I might put it down for a week or 2 weeks, you know. You know, I went through treatment with a guy that he was an airplane pilot, you know. And he worked for United Airlines, you know. This is a long time ago I got sober, you know. And this guy had been sober 20 years when he came into treatment. He had retired from the airlines, and within 2 weeks he was drunk. And within 6 weeks he was in that treatment center. And he had been in treatment before. He had been, you know, treatment or termination when he was piloting. And he stayed sober for 20 years. And the first 10, he said he went to meetings, but he never got the spiritual concept. You know, he just went for the sociability and all that stuff. Then he quit going, you know. And as soon as there was nothing making him not drink, he picked it up, you know. I was reading today, and that same very story that they wrote in 1939, that same story, the businessman, he quit drinking for 25 years because it was wrecking his business. He was getting out of control, so he just quit, you know. As soon as he retired, man, within 4 years he was dead. And within a short period of time, he was, you know, gone. He was like wrecking everything around him again, you know. So the disease doesn't go away, but it still talks to us no matter what, you know what I mean? And so I'm sober by the grace of God. And today I don't give myself a choice to drink or not. You know, I don't wake up every day and say, hey, you know, I have a choice whether I drinking or not, and, you know, I choose not to drink today. I don't do that, you know. In the first place, because of the grace of God, I don't have the want to drink anymore. I don't want to, you know. Every time I think of it, it breaks me out in a cold sweat, and I remember my last drunk, you know. Every once in a while, I'll have a dream, you know, and just wake up and just like, it was so real, you know what I mean? And I go, fuck, I never had fun in one of those dreams, you know, not once, you know. Somebody told me at a meeting, they said, well, they're dreams, so you might as well have fun. Well, I don't have fun when I have one of those dreams, and I'm glad they come very seldom, you know. And that the promises that she read tonight, you know, are awesome. You know, that's part of when the obsession starts leaving, when the solution, you know. So I'm gonna let you. I get carried away. I'm glad he reminded me.
Thanks, Jim.
Thanks a lot, Jim. Woo! Yeah. Can I move?
No. I'm Ashley Miles. I'm a grateful alcoholic.
Hi, Ashley.
Hey, Ashley.
And my sobriety date is October 10th, 2000. And I got sober when I was 18. So for those of you trying to do the calculation, I'm 30. So just so you know my age now. I thought Jim was doing a great job. You want to come back here? For some reason, I'm really nervous tonight. You know, I love that God still has not taken away my character defects. You know, it's like I still have them. And I'm sometimes very grateful that they go away on His time and not my time. Because a lot of times those character defects is what gets me here. My people-pleasing character defect, to please you, that's why I'm here. You know, and I tell you, I was thinking, what am I going to share on step one? And I thought, you know, I'm not going to come in here and lecture because I don't know how many times people tried to lecture me into getting sober and it never once worked. So I'm just going to share my experience with all of you on how I came to step one. And, you know, being a young person in Alcoholics Anonymous was actually very difficult for me because I can't tell you how many times old guys would tell me, I've spilt more than you drank, you know, and I'd be like, man, if you didn't spill so much, you would have got here sooner, you know, and I still remember a lot of times they would say, I'm so glad to see all you young people here, and I'd be like, I'm really glad to see all you old people here, you know, and you just have to remember that when people come into Alcoholics Anonymous, it's because they've hit their bottom usually. I mean, I can't tell you that my life was wonderful and I just came up with this great idea to come to AA, you know. It's like, you just don't do that, you know. Normal people don't do that. I know I started drinking at a very young age and it was great. You know, it was absolutely great, you know. All of a sudden, you know, I was always really short and I grew up with these sisters that were just drop dead gorgeous and I never thought that I equaled up to them. But man, when I took that drink, I grew about another foot, you know. I had big boobs. I had, you know, just this figure, and everybody wanted to be around me. You know, and that's what alcohol did for me for a few years, you know. It just made me everything that I wanted to be, you know. And unfortunately, that didn't last very long, you know. Eventually, you know, became a necessity. And I always sit there and think about how long we sit there and try to deceive ourselves that our life is manageable, you know, because here I was, I didn't have a place to live, I'm living in my car, I'm doing God knows what for money to support my alcoholism, you know, and doing all these things, but my life's manageable, you know. I came to in the cop shop and I was covered in blood and I'm thinking, my life is manageable, right? I totally have control over my life, you know, and tell you, that was a scary part of my life, and I was only 15 years old, and I came to, and I was covered in blood in the cop shop, not knowing what had happened, no clue, and the cops are talking to me, and I'm just like, oh my hell, you know, I was in this blackout, and I just come to, you know, and it's like, what the hell happened, you know, and come to find out, we didn't kill anybody, just so you know, I was just covered in animal blood, because we were really sick and crazy, but my life is manageable, right? it's manageable. You know, I'm dating these crazy people, and I'm doing these crazy things, and that was okay with me. You know, it was okay with me, because what I was feeling inside, and the only thing that got rid of it was the alcohol. You know, those feelings that we have, only alcoholics have, you know, and alcohol seemed to calm that down for me. I was 16 years old, and I'd gotten a DUI, and I had decided that I would drop out of high school. And I'm one of those very fortunate people, and I truly give a lot of credit of my sobriety to my parents, because my parents were not enablers at all. I was 16, dropped out of high school, and my dad said, okay, you get to support yourself. So you can live under my roof, but you pay rent, you buy anything that you need, you have to buy it. And he made me food, everything I had to buy, you know, and I decided, screw this, you know. I started fights with him, and they said, okay, out you go, you know. So I was 16, and I was living on my own, and I actually moved in with my cousin, and boy, we could party, you know. And I tell you, some of the greatest times in my life were those parties, you know. We had some kick-ass parties, you know, and that's where I always drank to get back. I always wanted to drink to have those times back, you know, because they were good times. And I never got those back, you know, I never did. I loved when Jim was saying about fighting people, you know, because that was me. I was absolutely so scared inside that as long as I was a bully, nobody messed with me. You know, and I found that out at a really young age, that as long as I fought people, they left me alone. And so I would always fight people. And I was living with this cousin, and her and I ended up getting into a big fight. And one girl had my arms held back behind me, and the other one's punching me. And I'm just like, now, back then, I would have told you that I won that fight. The honest to God's truth is I totally lost that fight, you know. But still, you know, I'm saying those lies that I have complete control, you know. I can quit when I want to. And I remember it was New Year's of 2000, and I was dating the homecoming king. Now, I tell you, this guy was hot. I mean, he was everything. When I started dating him, that was the point where, in Bill's story, he talks about that moment where he had arrived. And when I started dating this guy, I had arrived, you know. It was like I was no longer the loser. I was dating the hottest guy in high school. And on that January of 2000, we were at this party, and I walked up the stairs, and he was outside on the deck, and I saw him talking to this girl, and I went, what in the hell? So I went out there, kicked him down the stairs, his head on the swing set, ripped his shirt off. It took 3 guys to get me off of him. And the next day, it's one of those moments where you wake up and you're like, I think I had a dream, you know? It's like, did that really happen? I don't think that really happened. And then you get up to move, and it's like every muscle in your body hurts, and you're like, oh no, I didn't really do that, did I? And it's like, yes, you did. And he wanted to talk to me, and he talked to me, and he's like, I can't be around with you, you know. When you're drinking like that, I can't be with you anymore. And I thought, you know what? I might have a problem. I might. You know, I've gotten 3 DUIs. No, at that time I'd had 2 DUIs. I might have a problem. So I decided to quit drinking. And by God, I went 14 days. 14 days. If you can go 14 days, you are not an alcoholic, right? So I decided I'm not an alcoholic. So I started drinking again. And from that time on until October 10th of 2000, I was drinking every day. Every day I was drinking. And it was September of that year, I had gotten another DUI. And I had decided, okay, I've got to do something, because this is my 3rd one. I'm going to be in a lot of trouble. You know, I've got to, God's calling.
Sorry.
But I had gotten this 3rd DUI, and I just have to tell you this because it's a funny story. Okay, so I get pulled over. There's cops coming from every direction, so we're pulled over, and my buddy that I'm with, I mean, he's kind of scary, you know, just to put it. Those are the people I hung out with. He was scary. And we get pulled over, and I'm driving this boat, because that's the vehicle that I drove. I mean, I think it was a Lincoln. It was like a 1960-something Lincoln, and I mean, it was huge. And it had lots of problems. To start it, I had to get up into the engine, and where I'm so short, I was seriously inside the engine, and I'd have to put a screwdriver in this little butterfly flap to get it started. And that's how I got it started. And then also the seat, okay, you guys noticed I'm like 5 foot tall, right? So the seat was stuck in the position of like the closest it could get to the steering wheel, right? And it was stuck there, it wouldn't move. And then it would always slip out of gear, so it would go into reverse, just by itself. And so we get pulled over, and I'm in the back of the cop car, and I'm handcuffed, and I'm watching this cop, and he's got my friend on the back of the car, and he's searching him, right? And this cop's big. I mean big. And he's searching him, and all of a sudden, there goes my car, and there goes my friend, and he falls down to the ground as the cop is searching him, and then the cop had to run up and try to stop the vehicle. And I'm sitting in the back of the cop's car, and I'm laughing. And I thought never in a million years would I be in the back of a cop car laughing, but I was. And I still remember driving up to the cop shop that time, and the cop is like, Ashley, what are you doing hanging out with him? Here he is, he's been arrested for rape several times, and this is the guy that, he drank worse than I did. That's why I hung out with him. I felt normal compared to him, That's who I hung out with, and I'd gotten that DUI, and I had decided I was going to be in big trouble when I went to go see the judge. So I decided, okay, I'm gonna try to go every other day without drinking. If I can go every other day without drinking, I'm not an alcoholic, right? Now, from just that short amount of time, I went 14 days to every other day, and every other day I was getting drunk. I could not get one day of sobriety, and I had decided, okay, I'll go see this, because, you have to take the drug and alcohol evaluation test thing, and I'd gone up, I was here in Pokey, and I decided, okay, I'm going to be honest on this one. I have taken those a million times, and I tell you what, I've even had probation officers get up and say, she just has a little bit of bad luck, that's it. It's like, oh my hell, if they only knew. I was just good at lying. I always knew to answer the question exactly opposite of what I thought, and then I would pass it. And so on this one, I decided, you know what, I'm just going to be honest. I'm just going to see what it says. And so I was honest with it. And she was going to give me the results about it. And when I'd gone in there, I had just said, you know what, I think I have a problem. I think I need to go to treatment or whatever you got to do. And the lady's like, well, that's a good thing, because the court's going to order you to if you don't go. And so I was like, crap, okay. So I went into treatment, and that was on October 10th of 2000. And the deal with me going into treatment was I was just going when there was a bed available. So I drank like you could not believe until October 10th. And I just remember waking up, and during this time, my parents had actually let me move back in with them until I was able to go to treatment. And I woke up on October 10th, and I was in the vehicle. My dad had put me in the vehicle, and he said, we're going to rehab. I was like, okay. So I went to rehab, and I'm a very, very good manipulator. Always have been. Very good at it. And I got to treatment, and I flew through it. They even let me out on the 31st, which was only 21 days, and I managed to not go to one single AA meeting while I was in treatment. Not very many people can say that, but I did. It was like I made an excuse for every one of them, and they believed me, because I'm just a poor 18-year-old. I don't really belong here. And I thought I wanted help. I really did when I was going the every other day, and I was being honest with that counselor. But when it came right down to it, I think I really thought that somebody would just teach me how to drink. I really do think that that's what I thought treatment was. So I get out of treatment, and my parents allow me to move back in with them. Oh, and I have to tell you, between this time, I kind of came to in treatment, and I was engaged to this guy. I don't know when it happened. I really don't remember anything about it. But I was engaged to this guy, and I didn't like him. So how that happened, I just don't know. But I was engaged to this guy, and so me and him both moved into my parents' house, and I had no intentions on going to AA or doing anything. And luckily, I'm from Grace. There's like 900 people in Grace. And there's this really nosy old guy. And he called my parents and he says, you know what? You need to get Ashley to an AA meeting. There's one tonight at 7 o'clock in Soda. She needs to meet me there. And my parents told me when they got off the phone, you're either going or you can't live here. So I was like, so I went. And it took me 18 months of being absolutely miserable in sobriety. I didn't get a sponsor. I didn't do the steps. And really, the only reason why I was going to AA was because I got court ordered to go. Got court ordered to go for 2 years. And I was like, okay, I'll just hang in there and do my time. And afterwards, I'll start drinking again, And 18 months of sobriety. And luckily, those old guys in our meeting, they were just so damn nosy, and I think they knew I was at a point in my sobriety where suicide was becoming an option. You can sober up a horse thief, and you got a horse thief. I was still selling drugs. I was still going to the parties. I was still doing all these crazy things, but I was sober, and I'm doing all these things and just absolutely miserable. And these old guys set up this little situation where there's the lava meeting, and they got this lady from Pokey to come to the lava meeting so she could meet me. And I still remember after the meeting, we went to the hot pools, and we're coming up out of the swimming pool, and all of a sudden I said, will you be my sponsor? And I thought, what the hell did you just do? You can't do that. You can't have a sponsor. And she had a bunch of requirements for me. Call her every day for 30 days, and I did it. I was just at this point where it was like, something's got to give. Either I got to drink or kill myself or try this AA thing, and so I did it, and I remember I called her up one night. Now, this is very profound. Are you ready for this? I called her up one night, and I said, I don't think I'm an alcoholic. She goes, really? She goes, Ashley, do you think a normal person sits there and debates whether they're an alcoholic or not? And I sat there and I thought about it, and I'm like, they don't. A normal person does not sit there and think, am I an alcoholic? No. Maybe. My mother doesn't do that. My mother is a normie. She doesn't sit there and ever debate whether she's an alcoholic or not. She knows she's not an alcoholic. And for some reason, that was just so profound to me. It was like, wow, I really am an alcoholic, I really am. So I think that was the true moment in my recovery where I took step one, and finally admitted that my life wasn't unmanageable. Even in sobriety, my life was totally unmanageable. I wasn't doing anything that AA had required me to do. I was just going to meetings, and there's one thing I want to share in here on step one. It says, it's on page 30, and it says, we learned that we had to fully concede to our innermost selves that we were alcoholics. This is the first step in recovery. The delusion that we are like other people or presently maybe has to be smashed. And that's where I really had to realize that I'm an alcoholic. I'm not crazy. I'm not anything else. I'm just an alcoholic. And in these rooms, I'm totally normal. I'm exactly the same as anybody else in this meeting. And I love that I can come to these meetings and I can tell you that I'm thinking suicide and homicide, and you guys are not going to send me to the loony bin. You guys are like, yeah, I feel that way too. It's like we just have this connection, and only us with that mental twist, only us can relate to that. And that's why I'm so grateful that I finally came to, and got a sponsor and worked the steps. And the greatest thing about my sponsor is that, I dropped out of high school at 16. So I was very illiterate, didn't have a big vocabulary at all. And she started me here. First page. She goes, this is what you know. Hers was blank. She goes, this is what you know about Alcoholics Anonymous until you get into the book. And it was true. Until you get into the book of Alcoholics Anonymous, you know nothing about the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. And she took me page by page and read every page with me with a dictionary. So I'm sure Jim noticed in my 12 and 12, that big word you read, I have a definition on the side of it, what it means. You know? But it's amazing because everything we learn in Alcoholics Anonymous actually prepares us for the real world. You know, it's like I got this job where I had to take minutes in a board meeting, and what was amazing was being a GSR and going to the district meetings and writing those minutes. That's how I knew how to do my job in the real world. You know, it's like, wow, I never really realized I'd learned how to work in Alcoholics Anonymous. You know, and it's just amazing the things that we can learn as long as we're willing to do the work. You know, my sponsor, I love her dearly. You know, she took me page by page and step by step, you know, and it's amazing. You know, it's just amazing once we get into this and do it. But step one is one that we have to do through and through, and I pray that everybody will do it just because I know how miserable I was for that 18 months, and I would hate to see anybody else have to go through that, you know. But am I good? Can I stop? I think God's
you're good.
telling me to. You know, I think God's just shut me off. So thanks for letting me share. I want to thank you for asking me, and that's all I got.
Thanks so much, Ashley. Good evening. Coming by.
I'm Greg, and I'm an alcoholic.
Hey, Greg.
I want to thank Ashley and Jim both. That was tremendous. We'll open it up for any questions or answers or discussion you guys want to have.
Name's Troy, I'm an alcoholic.
Hey, Troy.
Try.
I want to congratulate Mike on 9 months. 9 months? Awesome, man.